Hello and welcome to a live episode of Pop Culture on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. I'm here with my co-host, Mystery Chris. How are you, Mystery Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Now that we get to hang out and have fun.
Yeah, we're back.
We should say we are also simulcasting tonight on Rumble. This is something new we've been doing. So tonight I'm going to try and venture over there and see some Rumble comments because I haven't been great at doing that. See if I can keep an eye on both. It's hard enough to just keep an eye on the chat here and be focused, Um, but welcome. If it's your first time here, we do this weekly show every other Wednesday night where we talk about pop culture and we look at how it influences culture and vice versa. And we do deep dives on very specific topics that are of interest to you, to us, maybe to you. and we decided we're going to follow up last time we did pop culture. We did we did a look at TV history, TV and television shows and commercials, and we looked at representations of the nuclear family in the 1950s. So, since it's Black History Month, we decided we're going to look at representations of Black people on television in the 1950s. I'm just joking. It just happens to coincide with Black History Month. But you know how people try to get credit for that? They're like, like our Black History Month programming.
uh, I could tell you how sick and tired I am of watching PBS because they're showing nothing but Black history, quote unquote, Black history documentaries. But all the documentaries, every single one is about Black people being beaten by white people. Like every single one.
That's
Like
the only
this is
story they
all
want to tell.
about celebrating Black suffering. This is what this month has turned into.
Yeah, it's just kind of yeah, that's a great point.
I'm with Morgan Freeman. Like I don't like Black History Month being its own thing. I want it taught all throughout the year, but doing so would also allow for people to talk about maybe some of the not so great things about Black culture. Even though a lot of schools obviously wouldn't do that, but there's a greater chance of that happening in the months outside of Black History Month in February, because this month you can only talk about the good things and the suffering, but you can't talk about any of the darker, no pun intended, darker things associated with Black culture and Black history.
You can't talk about any of the problems that might disproportionately impact the Black community.
Yeah, like
Or you can, but not go
uh,
ahead.
well, it's like when we did the slavery episode. We talked about how I think there was thousands of free Blacks who owned Black slaves, and there was one particular story about a woman
Oh, right.
who she bought her husband, a free Black woman, rich woman. She bought a slave that she fell in love with, married him, kept him a slave. Then they argued, and she ended up selling him back into
Into
slavery.
slavery. You told me about this.
Yeah,
You guys.
she regretted it and then tried to get him back, but it's too late. But how fantastic would that be for a movie? Which we'll never see a movie like that, but that would be great.
Let's do an episode just about that woman. Because nobody's heard of stories like that. That is a fascinating story. That should be
I
a
know.
Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
That is like the
Like the
worst of all.
BET movie.
Like, you buy your husband out of slavery, and then you have a couple arguments, and you're like, "I'm selling your ass back into slavery." Who does that?
Yeah. Let's I want to see it. I want to see it.
What was her
Daily
name?
Wire, get on it.
What do you remember her name?
No, I don't. I have to look it up.
I'll have to look it up. Okay, we're gonna do an episode on her. Bookmark it. I'm highly caffeinated, and we're gonna have a good time tonight. It might be a short episode because Mystery Chris has to work. Um, but even though it's gonna be a short episode, I do want to steal 2 minutes of our airtime for you to tell me the story of your dental office visit that you were about to tell me before we started, and I said no, save it for the show.
Yeah. Last week I went in to get a tooth implant, which sucks. But my dentist was late. He was flying in from somewhere, and so I ended up being at the dentist office for, if you include the surgery time, for over 5 hours. And the worst thing, other than having to pay thousands of dollars for a tooth implant. The worst thing was having to listen to two black women sitting in front of me talk about how terrible Trump was and how great Biden was. They
Oh.
were talking about how a lot of old people, people who are retirement age, are having to work past retirement, age, but they failed to link it up with some of the policies that Biden and Democrats and Republicans have put forward. Instead, it was all about Trump, Trump, Trump. They were so glad that Trump is certain people are trying to bankrupt him right now, and it was more painful than my surgery. If I
Did you say anything?
No, I was so hard to control my tongue. I wanted to, but these people just it just depressed me. I was like hoping that everything we've gone through would cause some people to just wake up. I'm not saying you have to like support a particular candidate, but just know that someone like Joe Biden is just awful, and that and they were also pro illegal immigration. So, which is also surprising because I know a lot of black people are kind of based on when it comes to that issue, because a lot of them do realize that
Yeah.
legal immigration is competing for labor with blacks, and that a lot of illegal immigrants who, if they're not being allowed to vote now, will have descendants who will vote most likely for the Democratic
Yeah.
Party, which would make the black vote irrelevant.
Well, were you afraid that if you said something to them that somebody who was going to be working on your teeth later might hear and hurt you during the surgery?
I didn't even think of that.
That would be the only reason I wouldn't say something, because you know me, I like the uncomfortable moments.
Yeah.
I might have been like, "Oh, yeah," but you remember when Joe Biden said that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black?
Yeah, you have to do it in a certain way, because I mean these were black women, and they can be very volatile. So you have to do it in a way to kind of get past their defenses, because they're ready to jump at you. And so something like what you just said, like, hey, like, man, that's crazy. That Charlemagne the God interview he did where he told us that we ain't black, we don't vote for him. Like that's crazy. I don't know if I don't know. I'm down with that, yo.
Yeah, yeah. You would not talk like that. Yo.
Dog, what's going on?
Suddenly you're like that Steve
Hey,
Buscemi
playa.
meme, like, "Hello, fellow black people."
Oh, I'm black, y'all.
"Hello, fellow black people, yo."
Faux shizzle.
Faux shizzle my nizzle.
Does anyone actually say that in serious? Like, seriously, does anyone say that anymore?
Faux
Or say it at
shizzle?
all, really?
I say it. Is it
But you're
wrong?
doing it in a joking way.
Right.
I'm like serious, like someone like saying like they want people to take them serious when they say that. Like they think it makes them cool.
I don't think so.
Somewhere out there.
Oh, I know we have to get at the topic, but there's a joke that it's just escaping me. Uh, oh, I wanted a long time ago, I thought it'd be funny if Snoop Dogg came out with his own vegan meat substitute products, and he called it faux rizo, like fake chorizo called faux rizo. Like, wouldn't you buy that? I
I'm
don't even
surprised he hasn't.
Right. Anyway, okay,
He
let's
had a
get going.
show on. Sorry, he had a
No, go
show on MTV called Faux. What was it? Doggy Fizzle Televizzle.
No.
Yeah,
I kinda
good
love
times.
that. Okay. We're gonna talk about Black television in the 1950s. Again, if you're new here, we do different, pop culture topics every couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, we did what was the how was the nuclear family presented in the 1950s on television and commercials? And so then we started reading more about, Black television shows in the 50s. There were some I had never heard of. Actually, a lot of these I'd never heard of. And so we thought it was interesting, and we wanna share stuff we find interesting, and maybe you've never heard of these either. Um, and currently, a lot of woke people are trying to rewrite history. And so, without knowing much about it, like there's this whole idea they're pushing that women have never been action stars, which is stupid. And, until Jennifer Lawrence, there was no female action star, and that gay people have never been represented before, which we've done a whole episode on representations of gay people on television, throughout history. We've done that one before. So tonight we're going to show a little history and see what's true. So, okay. Do you have something you want to say to set this up?
Oh, I was just gonna say that, yeah, like you said, a lot of these shows I had never heard of, and some of them I did heard of, like Amos and Andy, and so I was really curious to finally sit down and watch it. And so I'll give my thoughts when we get to that.
Okay, I should start with this. Let's start with an article. Then we're going to watch some interesting clips. Okay, this is an LA Times article from 1992. And it's called TV in the 50s was a forgettable period for blacks. Wow,
Who
LA
are
Times.
you?
Screw
What is
you.
that name? Dubrow?
Dubrow? I
Is
don't
that a
know.
real name?
Sounds fake. But let's read it. Actually, it does have this is you'll see why we're reading this because it's relevant. Okay, it was poetic justice, unforgettable. There on the screen in the emotional highlight of CBS's Grammy Awards this week. So again, that's 1992. Flickered the long ago image of the great Nat King Cole. How many viewers, I wondered, knew that 35 years before, in 1957, NBC was forced to cancel his show, the first network variety series hosted by a major black star, because of the inability to get enough national sponsors, frightened away by a feared boycott in the South. In the North as well, several NBC stations rejected the show. And now, this week, in a triumphant and bittersweet moment, the telecast of the music industry's top award show belonged to the late singer and his daughter, Natalie, and to his song Unforgettable, which is binding them together for a new generation in a chillingly beautiful duet in which their voices are spliced together. He had 1 billion people this week, and he couldn't even stay on the air in those days, said producer and musical mogul Quincy Jones, who was a friend and colleague of the singer and pianist. Blacks almost didn't exist on television. He did have a hell of a time getting a sponsor, and you know damn well why, because the man was black, recalled singer Mel Torme, one of many top show business stars who appeared in the 1956 and 57 series The Nat King Cole Show, at minimum fees in a vain effort to help the beloved entertainer establish his own program. Times jazz critic Leonard Feather remembered Cole's comment, quote, Madison Avenue is afraid of the dark, end quote. Added Feather, who noted that the series had lesser local sponsors. At that time, you never saw any black newsmen or anchormen on TV either, mostly for fear of offending the Southern market. Despite all his talents, Cole had to fight that whole situation. Okay, I'll stop sharing this now. So we were reading this and we were curious, like, is that true? Was there a dearth of programming then? Let's look through it. And actually, I do think that article is pretty accurate about the time period because it is pretty sparse. Most of what we saw, and we're going to show you, there was a really popular a show that we used in the thumbnail called, wait, I always mispronounce it. How do you pronounce it?
Beulah.
Beulah. Beulah started off as a CBS radio show in 1945, and it ran as a radio show for 9 years, a successful radio show. And it also became a TV show on ABC, and it ran for 3 years as a television show. And that's a sitcom show. But other than that, and
Well,
Amos and Andy, go ahead.
actually, it started in 39 in the
Really?
radio. It started out as a white man doing the character of Beulah.
What? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I actually put a link in there. If you
Where?
want to hear that, it's in the show notes.
Under Beulah?
Yeah, it's there. So the
Okay.
guy, I think he created Martin Hunt, white guy, created in 1939 for NBC Radio, and he played this character up until the mid 40s, and then that's when Hattie McDaniel took over playing it on the radio. And while it was on the radio, they started a show in 1950, I believe. There was a different actor who played her on a show. Hattie McDaniel played Beulah for 6 episodes, but they had to briefly shelve those episodes because she got diagnosed with breast cancer, which later take her life. I think 1952. And so they had another woman play her, and then they played those episodes at the end of that. So long history, but I thought it was interesting how this, and we'll also see the same thing with Amos and Andy, started out with white people doing minstrels, which
It
eventually
started
became
as
blacks.
minstrel shows, and then they
Yeah.
became black actors.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that one about this one. I found your link. This is the one, right?
Yeah.
And this
You
is a
just play a little
man.
bit, get a sense of
Is a
what it's
man
like.
playing her?
Mm-hmm.
Could have quit. So that's how you got the day off. I thought it seemed mighty funny. Yeah. And just how did you come to make this date with me?
Wait, that's a man?
Yeah.
What?
No, good, no.
He's good. What? Wait, let's listen to a little bit more.
Did you think I'd put the bill? Honey, you paid last time. Do you think I'd let you pay again? Well, guess not. Guess again. I mean, let's just do something else. Something inexpensive for us. Like what? Well, like sitting around your kitchen here, having some laughs and some eats. That's fun, huh? Sitting around this kitchen where I went all week long.
Mickey Mouse.
Well,
Does it? I mean, he's convincing, though, to me.
So a lot of black women sound like men, yeah.
He sounds more like a woman than a lot of these trans women.
But think about it. So we went from a white man playing a black woman to a black woman playing a black woman. And now we have black men like Tyler Perry playing black women with Medea. Look at that progress. I love it. Patriarchy strikes again.
Okay, should I move on to one of the TV show clips?
Yeah, move on to one of these shows. I think I put the one of Hattie McDaniel in there, which I watched a couple of episodes, and I'm gonna say, like, even though the character, and this goes similar for Amos and Andy, which we'll talk about in a bit, but even though they are a bit stereotypical for at times, it was progress because I didn't feel like, at least in the episodes I saw with Bueller, I didn't feel like she was so much the butt of the joke. She played kind of a sassy maid a little bit, it's a trope, but I do feel like it was a little bit more respectful than certainly the minstrel radio programs. And I know Beulah actually got some acclaim from NAACP. They were pretty pleased, and so you got to put things in its context. And I think contextually it was progress because they again went from white guy to a black woman, and it was played with a little bit more respect.
It was progress. We forget that progress happens incrementally in steps, so even if we look at it now, we're looking back on it through the benefit of more progress in history, and we're looking back at it now saying, "Oh, I can't believe, well, this is a stereotype and what have you," but it was a stepping stone that led
Yes.
to the next stepping stone, and
And that's what a lot of the actors, if you read about some of the stuff, and I put a clip we'll play later for Amos and Andy, but a lot of those actors, even though a lot of them were getting heat back then for it, a lot of them were saying, hey, this was an opportunity for us or for other actors. And so, again, putting that context, like, yeah, it wasn't always, a great portrayal, but again, stepping stone, just like you said. And similar to blaxploitation, we did this blaxploitation episode a while back,
Mhm.
and that had mixed feelings from a lot of blacks back then. There were some who loved it and some who thought it was promoting stereotypes, but the ones who loved it were pointing out that, hey, there wasn't a lot of blacks on film back then, and this was a step forward for blacks in filmmaking and on-screen talent. So again, you just got to put it into context.
Okay. Is this the one you wanted me to show? Or is this the one I pulled?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, let's just
We'll
play the
find out.
beginning.
The Bueller Show. Who spends most of her time in the kitchen, but never seems to know what's cooking.
And then Baldwin saw the scintillating mirror of light dancing gaily in Valerie's eyes. It had not been there since the night of the Cambridge race 6 long years ago. Valerie's plan had worked. At long last, they had recaptured the ecstasy of love. The end. Now, Bueller, what do you think of it?
I think that's the most beautiful story I ever heard.
Yeah, well, I like that part about old love being a banister and new love cushioning the stairs. You know, leaning on the old and getting the bounce out of the new, their maritime problems are solved.
It says there's some words on page 5 about their author, Charles Kenwood Ainsley, renowned novelist, world traveler, and authority on matrimonial problems. The story's all true, Oreo.
But you can't dream of stuff like that.
Mr. Ainsley
So in this
says to
episode, she basically tries to help some white people, some white couple she works for, having some marital issues. And so that's where the comedy's supposed to come from. Wasn't a very funny episode, but still,
Right.
it was a setup. I think this is actually Ethel Waters. I don't think this is Hattie McDaniel here. But yeah, so this episode, her character comes across as a well-meaning and big-hearted person who wants the best for people. So again, I didn't find it like they're laughing so much at the character, it's more the situations that she gets in. And so I thought for that time, I thought it was pretty surprising to have a more positive portrayal compared to previous.
Yes, she's a good person.
Mhm.
You know, Adam says, Beulah seems so nice. She ain't snapping her fingers and going, every few seconds.
And that's a sad thing too, because like when I was watching this and Amos and Andy, like even though Amos and Andy's even a bit more stereotypical, particularly Kingfish, but even though it's compared to the way many of us blacks act now, like that's head and shoulders better. Like I would actually like
Really?
even if black people actually like that today, like ones in the inner city. I prefer that than the stereotypical, oh, I talk like this. You know, I think that's better than, hey, cuz. Like, I don't understand what you're saying.
That's Thomas Sowell says that came from my people, cracker
The
culture.
Irish. Didn't he talk about
Yeah,
Irish?
yeah.
A lot of it came from something there. Yeah.
Cracker culture. Yeah. What was that book? We've talked about it before.
Black rednecks and what? So
And white liberals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what "hey cuz" means.
Oh God.
Okay.
Oh, you don't play more of that unless you want, but yeah, you show the couple.
I want to show here.
And then Baldwin saw the scintillating myriad of lights dancing gaily in Valerie's eyes.
Is this beautiful, Miss Alice?
Yes, Beulah, and it has a lot of good common sense, too. But I don't think Mr. Harry would ever agree.
Baldwin balked like a mule, too.
When may I expect dinner, Beulah?
Presently, Mr. Harry, presently. Why don't you go take a crack at him, Miss Alice?
Well, maybe it would sound better coming from a disinterested party.
Meaning me, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll try.
She's basically a female magical Negro.
Yes, that's exactly what, and I think that would be the criticism today, the
Mhm.
stereotype of the good black person who helps the white people. And at the same time, like you're saying, this all has to be in context. And this is a stepping stone. This is a show based around her. It's the Beulah show. It's not based around the couple that she works for and she's helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also somebody knows with Beulah and with Amos and Andy, it's like the portrayal, especially with Amos and Andy's, were a little bit more cartoonish, but I think in doing so made it more memorable than say some of these characters portrayed in like an all white sitcoms, because we were talking about some of the sitcoms last week. Donna Reed show and Father Knows Best, those types. And to be honest, a lot of those characters seem very interchangeable. Like they all kind of blend together. Like
Yeah.
the archetype of the father and the mother, are, they don't deviate much from that
Well, there's
in the
stereotypes
shows.
too.
Yes,
Yeah.
but like with these, like stereotypes, but in TV there weren't as many portrayals as say like Beulah or Amy's and Andy, and it stands out more.
Yes.
It's their characters are more, I'd say, more interesting actually, despite being a little cartoonish, stereotypical.
More interesting because they're like one of a kind at the time.
Yeah, they're more entertaining. Yes, they have more personality. When a lot of the other characters, like in last week, were there more for like to impart moral instructions and stuff, but they're very stern and didn't really have that much depth to the characters. None of these characters really have that much depth, but in terms of entertainment, like it's a little bit more entertaining for these characters, I think.
I think I agree with you on that. That it's, and because it was so new, yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that more. Okay. Should we show more Beulah, or should we move on since we have a short night? You have to work.
We can move on.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically it. Yeah, that wasn't Hattie McDaniel, but Hattie McDaniel, like I watched one of her episodes, and her portrayal is more sassy. Very different than what we saw there, but it was all popular when she took over the radio program in the mid 40s. Like the ratings doubled. Like people wanted to listen to her.
Hold on. Let me just see. I didn't find that clip in our show notes.
Yeah, I may not put it there, but yeah, she was only on 6 episodes, I think.
Well, okay, let's move on though, because you know us, we'll get stuck, and then you have to go, and you will only have done one show. So I was gonna say, outside of Beulah and Amos and Andy, almost all of the shows featuring Black people in starring roles or main roles in the 1950s were variety shows. They were like late night kind of talk shows with musical guests, or they were music shows, like the Nat King Cole show, which got canceled. So these are really the two standouts. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, because they were the scripted ones, and there was no audience for Beulah, of course, but there was for Ames Andy. At least probably was laugh track. But yeah, the rest seemed to be mostly variety acts. And I did watch a little bit of Nat King Cole program, and the whole show was just music. Like he doesn't interview anybody; it's just him with a guest, and they sing. Sometimes black, sometimes white. One of the episodes I watched had Eartha Kitt in it, and they basically just did several songs for the entire episode.
That was the same for was it the Hazel Scott show, the Billy Daniels show? I mean, there were several, which hopefully we'll have time to get to a few of these. Well, should we go to Amos and Andy first, since these are two that are like different?
Did you know much about Amos and Andy?
No.
I didn't either. I just always heard about it and heard that it had these really racist stereotypes, and you had a lot of black people who are, basically, shucking and jiving. But when I watched, I didn't think it was that bad in terms of, portrayals and stuff. Like it's far better than the Stephen Fetchit. Because I don't know if you've ever seen Stephen Fetchit.
I have seen some clips of that. Yes.
Yeah, that's really bad. But these I thought were better. And again, these started off as minstrel radio by two white guys. And I think this is a clip from, I put a clip from the radio, because they also did a movie, which I want to talk about next, but let's play this clip.
So this clip that you gave me, though, is not 1950s. This is from 1934.
Yes, the Amos and Andy started off in 1928. The two white guys did the show, and it ran all the way into 1960. And so it was pretty popular. I think they played it all throughout there, and they actually made a movie in 1930, which I'll talk about in a minute, where they actually wore blackface And a lot of audiences members were shocked when they found out that it was two white guys in blackface because they thought it was going to be seeing some black people on there. They're like, well, they sound black on radio, so I thought they'd be black on film, but they weren't. And that movie didn't do all that great in terms of reception. But when it came time to do the television show, they wanted to do it, but knowing that they probably couldn't get away with the blackface, things were changing, didn't have a good reception to the movie. They were going to try to lip sync or dub their voices over black actors.
Wow, that's like the true blackface. Right?
Yeah. But that didn't happen, so they ended up getting black actors and allowing me doing the voice. And a lot of the black actors, at least for Ames, Andy, and Kingfish, were trying to do something similar to what the was portrayed in the radio program.
Okay, so that's great context for this because again, we're doing representations of Black people on television in the 50s, but this started as a radio show. So this clip is from 1934, and we're gonna get to the television show in a second. But let's start with this. This is where it came from.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. After introducing the Amos and Andy program on the air for many years, it is a great pleasure to me to add an introduction to their first animated talking cartoon.
Yeah, I guess I put the cartoon
The
in.
voices that you hear each time the characters speak
They did a cartoon.
are the real voices.
Sorry.
Yeah, they have a cartoon with the here. I'm gonna skip forward.
Here I blue, here I blue.
No.
Tell everybody around the place I is blue. Hello, King Peace, come on in. Well, there's Andy asleep again. Andy, wake up. Andy.
Where's your taxi cab company? President speaking.
Andy, wake up. The phone ain't ringing. You asleep.
We are going to be canceled. Just for looking at this, we are going to be canceled.
We did a whole episode of racist cartoon.
We did do a whole racist
hilarious.
cartoon episode. Oh man. Thoughts?
But yeah, that was the cartoon. Do you want to show any in the movie with the blackface?
Well, at this point,
keep that train chugging.
it's educational. It is educational. That's the thing is,
Yeah.
the
Put it in
leftists,
context. It's
the
history.
leftists want to talk about this, but they never. It's like they want to erase it at the same time. They want to erase it so they can tell you what it was, and they can dictate how they weave it into the false stories that they tell today. But they don't want you to look at history, and it is important to look at it: racist history, sexist history, stereotypes, all that. How else can you see how far we've come or progressed? But yeah, I'm joking about us being canceled just for watching it. But seriously, some people are going, mark my words, one day this clip will be used to say deprogram what Keri Smith is racist. Say what?
The black tasker.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to see a clip from the blackface movie. Now, what year was the blackface movie?
This was in 1930.
Okay.
And this movie was, what was the name of it? It was Double Check. It's the name of it. So Amos and Andy are two guys who decide to start a taxi company, and it's basically their adventures or misadventures.
Now, somebody up above in the chat, I can't find it right now. Oh, Bros and Bows said no blackface in 1934. Did I hear that correctly? No, I don't. I think what we were saying is that people who had been listening to the radio show all this time didn't know that these particular actors were not actually black, right? Isn't that what you meant?
Yeah. They were shocked when they saw them in this movie, and that was part of why it got a negative reception, and part of the reason why they decided to go with black actors in the 1950s show instead of having white guys dub their voices.
Are Arnara says, "Oh, Trudeau is in this. It's a blackface movie."
Probably watches this every night.
You know, Justin Trudeau officially on the record said he cannot say how many times he's appeared in blackface. He cannot put a number on it. That's true. Look that up. He said, "I can't say how many times. There could be more times that have surfaced." How many times did we did? We went through it once. I think it was like 3 or 4 that we know of.
People basically asking, "What's your blackface body count?" You know, I was young, college, I was drinking.
Oh my goodness, that's blackface body count. I'm making a note of that. That's great. Mine is 0.
What is mine?
What is yours?
Oh, do some math. Wow.
Because we saw, by the way, Mystery Chris and I were doing research for another episode in the future that we're potentially going to do an episode about blackface and the history of it and different stars that you and I had no idea some of these people had done blackface, right? So we were doing this research and we came across black people doing blackface as well.
It's so sad. That's why I'm laughing. I'm not laughing. It's actually funny. It's funny because it's sad.
It's funny because it's sad. It's crazy. And yeah, that episode is going to be wild when we do that. Because you look at the clips and you're just thinking, look, I know we have the benefit of being in a different time in history and everything, but still, isn't there a part of you that's like, just wait till we do that. You'll have to see. As they're performing it, they're like, is something wrong with this? Like,
well, we just kept going because we kept like finding clips of all these people, all these big stars from that time, and we just started like Googling it, like what about this star? Have they done blackface?
There was a lot of them.
Many. I was like, holy crap!
Like, you know how when you first learn that the number of people in Hollywood who are into child sexual abuse is probably much higher than you knew. It's like that with blackface too. You're like, whoa, there's like a whole bunch of them that have done blackface. Okay.
Yeah, everybody's doing it.
Well, okay, let's watch a little bit of this movie. Now, again, for people who listen to the radio show, as you said, many of them thought they were black actors, so they were surprised. Where should I go to? What do you think?
Let's see. What's a good blackface moment? Okay, there we go. Yeah.
This is like the cartoon.
Yeah, I think they basically just took the same script and just animated it.
Hey.
Get away from that phone.
I just have to say hello before this goes by me. Hello, George the Giant Slayer. Good to see you. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships and good to see you here.
Yeah.
If you have any comments or things you want us to talk about, let us know. Okay. We're just watching things that are gonna get us canceled just for looking at that crazy shit in the 50s.
This is the Fresh Air Taxi Cab Company of America Incorporated. Andrew Brown speaking. Oh, hello.
The 30s, I mean. This is the 30s.
Boy, he said he'll after you, eh? What's that, honey? No, I can't right now. The Kingfish is coming over to talk over a big proposition. Well, I'll call you back. Oh, show.
I would love to do like a fake documentary about a blackface makeup artist who gets laid off when blackface comes out of style.
What happened to all the blackface makeup artists?
Times are changing, see?
Wait a minute. You always good. Hold on, I gotta write this down. You know what it's like? It's like the saxophone players after the 90s ended and they weren't getting booked anymore to go on tour with different because there was always a saxophone player in the band and then suddenly there weren't any sax players.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the sad blackface makeup artist gets fired. Wah, wah.
That'd be awesome.
It's so stupid. Oh man. Okay. So again, to be clear, because I misspoke a second ago, that clip was from the movie of Amos and Andy in the 1930s, and the two white actors who voiced Amos and Andy in the popular radio program appeared in blackface, to the surprise of some listeners who thought that they were black. When the show was picked up for television, that brings us to the 50s, which is our subject tonight, and they were replaced by two black actors. We have a clip of this, right? Let's see.
Yes, and most of these episodes concentrated on Kingfish, who was their friend. I think he's like head of their lodge they were part of. But he's the one I think it's the most stereotypical, because like he sounds like he's trying to imitate a white person trying to make fun of a black person with minstrel. The other two aren't as bad, I don't think. And I have another clip we'll play in just a little moment that shows that their portrayal wasn't all stereotypical. There's a nice little moment we'll get to in a moment.
Which one of these do you think I should play?
Let me see. Hold on. So do the TV clip. If you go TV clip of Amos and Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, play a little bit of that just to show the actors. And this show was on the air from 51 to 53. It later got taken off the air, partly because of pressure from NAACP and other groups that didn't like the portrayal of blacks on the show.
Wow.
But the thing is, like, even if you want to say that the main characters were stereotypical, there is a lot of black extras on here that weren't doing any kind of like stereotypical black accent or dialect or anything like that. And so there were a lot of people who weren't getting opportunities, who weren't even doing the quote unquote shuck and jive type thing. And so you got to factor that in as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's watch this.
Oh, hello, folks. I was just over visiting my old friend, the Kingfish, and he's having his troubles again. You see, about 20 years ago, he bought this piece of land up in the country just outside of New York City. He figured that maybe someday the city would spread in that direction and he'd make a lot of money. Well, all this time has passed and he's still stuck with the lot. And when I left the Kingfish just a little while ago, Sapphire was calling that matter to his attention.
There were a lot of people who didn't like that Kingfish. Like, a lot of these episodes revolved around him trying to find ways to make money, get rich. And so they thought that was promoting a stereotype of, you know, even though he wasn't a criminal, but they still thought that was promoting a bad image of blacks.
I'm going to skip ahead. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, skip to whenever you want.
Oh, well, that's so. You see this head here of mine? Well, there's a lot of ideas growing in this head.
Well, if what's growing on the top is any sign of what's growing inside, it must be pretty bad. You know, George, I wouldn't feel so bad about it. But this is one of the things you said would bring us security in our old age.
Well, honey, there's still hope.
Outside of the $50 we got from that movie company when they used the lot as a location for a picture, this lot has been a dead loss to us.
I still see that valuable property. And someday they're going to develop that whole area with new homes. You wait and see.
As I was saying, George, we were counting on this lot for security. And
I think sometimes people just can't see, they don't see, like we talked about, the stepping stones in progress, right? And if there are so few representations as there were, because there were really only these two in the 50s, other than the variety shows. So if there are so few, then it matters a lot more because this is the representation, right? And I get that. But looking back on it is where, to me, I think people, they're making the mistake sometimes of not being able to see how this how progress just doesn't happen in this one huge leap, that you have all these different firsts, or these different successes, and so they can't appreciate, for example, saying, well, it's a bad representation because he's a guy who's always trying to pull one over, make some money, or, you know, people don't say that about, you know, the representations of men in general on television. You know, it's like husbands for a long time, especially in the early 2000s, were portrayed as being useless. I mean, think of Al Bundy. You know, it's sort of it's not a great representation of a husband and a father, but there are so many so many examples to choose from, that's why I think people don't.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Apu. We've talked about Apu and the problem with Apu. That documentary that came out and, you know, attacked him, and that's why they caused Hank Azaria to stop doing the voice of Apu in The Simpsons. But Apu, even though like a lot of people, including myself, didn't know much about Indian culture, you know, when The Simpsons was on, a lot of it's being informed by a cartoon character. I know that, you know, there are people from East India who may object to, you know, some of the things they portray because they might give the wrong impression, or people might think certain things about Indian culture that aren't necessarily true. But despite that, Apu wasn't a character that people were laughing at specifically. Like they weren't making fun of him as a person. Like he wasn't portrayed as a horrible person. He wasn't portrayed as a schemer, a dangerous person. He was a lovable guy. And even though he had certain quirks about him that were, you know, kind of funny, uh, they weren't making fun of him as a person, or making fun of Indian culture, you know, so much. I mean, it's a little stereotypical, maybe a little, but I still think it did more good things than bad things, put it that way. And I look at similar to with what Amos and Andy, or because they could have been portrayed way worse. They could have been portrayed as, you know, criminals and, you know, chasing after white women and all these, you know, more worse stereotypes that were being portrayed for blacks back in that time. But like you said, there was the stepping stones, and the portrayals were more positive than what people had seen previously.
What they had seen. Hey, and at least they were using black actors. Finally.
Yes, promise.
I don't know what we're ever going to be able to do with.
Well, honey, maybe we can sell it.
Well, you bought it, George. You sell it.
This is just a marital disagreement that anybody can relate to, you know? Okay.
But yeah, if you pull up this next clip, because I wanted to pull up, this is, I think, for the Christmas episode, aired in 52. And in this one, Alvin Childress, who played Amos, he's a family man. And in this episode, like you actually kind of see a little bit of his acting chops. Like he's not doing that, you know, accent so much. There's a nice little cute scene, a little cheesy. Of course, it's the 50s, but cute, with him and his daughter in this episode. And I think I queued it up at the right time. I just want to play a little bit of this and show you how there were some nice moments in this show that did treat these characters with respect.
Christmas music on the radio?
Why, darling, this is the very best Christmas music you could get. They're going to sing the Lord's Prayer. It's right here in your Bible. It's the 6th chapter of St. Matthew.
I've been saying the Lord's Prayer with Mommy.
Yeah, I know you is.
But what does the Lord's Prayer mean, Daddy?
Lord's Prayer. Well, I'll explain it to you, darling. It means an awful lot. And with the world like it is today, it seems to have a bigger meaning than ever before.
But what does the Lord's Prayer really mean, Daddy?
Well, you just be quiet and I'll explain it to you. The first line of the Lord's Prayer is this: Our Father, which art in heaven. That means Father of all that is good, where no wrong can dwell. Then it says, Hallowed be thy name. That means we should love and respect all that is good.
I see.
And then it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That means, my darling, as we clean our hearts of all hate and selfishness and fill our hearts with love, the good, the true, and the beautiful, then earth, where we are now, will be just like heaven.
That would be wonderful, Daddy.
Okay, I just chills. I have chills. This is this is like the Father Knows Best clip that you showed me
Yeah.
of father praying, leading his family in prayer at the dinner table. It's so foreign to where we are now culturally to see this on television. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That it's like, what?
A family man, he's taking care of his kids, he's a religious man. I mean, see, there were some values, some moral values in this show, despite, some of the stereotypes.
Yes. It's just, I mean, that's beautiful. You just don't see stuff like this on television anymore. It would be, unless it's, mocking a Christian dad or, who's
Yes.
or something, you just wouldn't see this kind of moral Christian instruction from a parent. I can't think of an
Yeah.
example.
That's what's so frustrating too, because you don't see a lot of, religious characters who take their faith seriously, who aren't portrayed as being crazy or massive hypocrites.
Hypocrites.
Yeah, just somebody who's just a good person who tries, not perfect, but somebody who does take their faith, their beliefs very serious. And, it would be refreshing if they were to do that today, but they don't.
It would be refreshing. I think it would get so much attention. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would just
No, I think it would. I seriously think it would. I think people are valuing that. Like I think I joked. I know this isn't, a religious character. Well, actually, kind of religious. Captain America. I remember a friend of mine once we were talking about character Captain America, and he was like, "You know what? I just love Captain America so much. He's so wholesome." And we both started to laugh. But it was like, it's true. Like in a day and age where you have so many anti-heroes and so many, villains who are being treated as, good guys, even though they do terrible things. Like it was refreshing to have a character from a time when people were much more certain about morality, about what, the country stood for, and someone who still tried to embody that, even though he was placed in a different context in which that wasn't really valued to the degree that it was when where he was from.
Well, look at Therese in the chat says, and despite what you'll be told, white people watch this too. We never cared about race in my day. Get off my lawn. Thanks, Therese. Yeah, Wombat said we watched this too.
And the thing is, like, so it got canceled in 1953, and actually I want to play a video from one of the supporting actors who was interviewed. I don't know when, but when he was an old man, he got interviewed about the show. But it got taken off 1953, but it was in syndication for a while here and there up until 1966, when the civil rights stuff was really getting intense, and they got a lot of pressure to take it out of syndication. So for the longest time, it wasn't shown on television. And I don't think it got shown until, I have to see, I almost want to say the 90s, but it took a while for it to return to television.
Isn't that crazy? It's like one of the first television shows featuring Black actors, and then it's the NAACP that's like, don't allow this to be shown.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Wait, what? Wait, it's not the KKK saying this? It's like, you would think it's the white, like, or maybe they were too. Maybe the NAACP and the KKK were aligned and like, get rid of this Black programming.
Well, I mean, I think I told you about, I read a book that I recommend everyone read. It's very short. It's more like a pamphlet. It's called, what was it? A Color, Communism, and Common Sense, I think it's called, by Manning Johnson, who is a Black man who was a communist for a while, and he became a capitalist after he started to realize that the NAACP had been infiltrated by communists who wanted to force integration, because not all Black people, despite what the documentaries want to tell you, not all Black people wanted to integrate back then. Someone did, but there are a lot who wanted Blacks to build their own. And he realized that a lot of these communists in NAACP wanted the integration because they knew it was going to cause racial strife and a lot of racial tension and violence, and they were hoping that that would lead to some massive revolution. Whoa.
Sorry, my light just did something
I'm
weird.
glad it's not a fire. I'm like, as long as nothing's on fire.
There we go.
There we go. But yeah, he realized that a lot of these communists wanted to start some kind of revolution using black people, and how they had no
Yes.
interest in really building up black areas. Like they didn't want to invest in black schools. They want to help, poor people in black areas. They didn't want to do any of this. All they wanted to do was force blacks and whites together. And so, kind of similar with Black Lives Matter, where a lot of the protests, pretty much all the protests, had to do with, racial, police abuse, alleged police abuse, racial abuse by police, and very little, if any, had to do with actually helping to build up black areas and to help get kids better education, to tutor them, to help beautify these areas, to give them more parenting guidance, big brothers, anything just to help black people in black areas. But nah.
I like people in the chat are shaking their heads. Yeah, like Texas Sheep Lady. My, that sounds familiar, And Davino's talking about all the different movements the communists were infiltrating.
Yeah, there are a lot of civil rights activists who were communists and socialists. Which by the way, I know. Hold on, before we go on, I don't talk. I saw a documentary on PBS years ago that was from the '80s. I was surprised they were playing it again because it was a documentary that talked about how a lot of it was a history of like the communists in America, like Communist Party and stuff. And I thought it was going to be like a puff piece because it started out of all these communist socialist types who were talking about how great it was and how bad America was. But they talked about how a lot of them were very idealistic, and once the horrors of what Stalin and others did in the Soviet Union came out, a lot of them kind of had a questioning of their own faith in communism. Like a lot of them actually, fled it because they realized how like evil and deadly it was. Like they were idealists and they thought, oh yeah, this would actually help people and stuff. And when they realized that it was just this murderous ideology, a lot of them just like start questioning their own identity because they had built
Yes.
in on that. And I
Yes,
was
this sounds
surprised that
familiar.
PBS was I was surprised PBS was showing this. It was an old documentary, it had to have been made in the 80s. But I was like, wow, they're playing this today. How did this get past
We should watch this
producers?
documentary. Remind me later.
I gotta find the name of it, yeah.
Okay. But that sounds so familiar to me, leaving the woke cult. Like, oh, this is a murderous belief system.
Mhm.
But my identity's wrapped up in it. Okay. So this is who's this actor again?
Nick Stewart played Lightning, one of the other characters on the show. The audio's not great on this, so I apologize, but just want to play a little bit of this of him talking about his times and the reaction to the show.
Why did CBS cancel it after only 2 years?
Well, they got a lot of flack from the black community, the NACP, and the churches, etc. They thought it was stereotypical. It showed no progress.
Do you feel like it was a successful show while it was on?
It made the original name of Cincinnati millionaires, but us, we have nothing to show for it. That was one of the characters died broke.
Were you surprised when it was canceled?
No.
How did the other folks involved with the show feel?
Well, they thought it was segregation in reverse. I mean, stupidity, you understand? They complained when they allowed the original Cincinnati to make millions. And we got a chance to make a living, But they wanted to work and pay the bills.
Tell me what happened to the rest of the cast after the show.
Nothing before and nothing after. Before they might have played the Apollo from time to time or the Black Theater Circuit, but they never was. I was a downtown comedian.
How did working on the Amos and Andy show, you think, affect your life and your career?
Well, it brought me into prominence. Right now that made me a living legend in many cities.
It would continue to have an ongoing life in
You can stop it
syndication
there.
for years after it ended production.
I love how matter of fact he is and
Yeah.
simple in terms of his answers, like very straightforward. He makes me think of my grandfather. It's like-
Grandfather's black.
he was very matter of fact and, didn't use extra words. He used colorful words, but he didn't have to use a lot of words.
Mm.
What happened to them after? Nothing.
Not a damn thing. I see that.
I thought it was so interesting how he says it was segregation in reverse. Meaning,
Yeah, I'm
I
trying to.
was trying to figure out what he meant there. Was it because he was saying, the original Amos and Andy, the white guys made millions, and then when we got to do the television show, we were in, is he saying we were included, we were allowed to make a living doing it, but not to make not to be that level? Is that what he means?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that phrase because like segregation versus that mean desegregation. I'm not sure, but I think he was, I guess, just talking about how like we were just saying, how the black actors made nothing, the white creators who created these stereotypes were making millions, and they're kind of using or exploiting. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, exploiting these black actors. So yeah, I'm not sure why I'd say segregation reverse, but
Yeah, that's the only part that I was kind of like, wait, what does he mean by that? Okay. What time do you have to tell me your heart out tonight?
let's go another half hour.
Okay. So I just want to hit some of the variety shows, because other than, as we said, in the 1950s, there was Beulah, there was the Amos and Andy show. We've watched clips from both of those, and then pretty much the rest were short-lived variety shows. So this was a show that only lasted 5 episodes called, oh wait, I don't think I have do I have a clip of this one pulled up? No, that's okay. I would get down to the one that I do have a clip of, but there was a show called Uptown Jubilee. It was also called Harlem Jubilee and Sugar Hill Times. But it only lasted 5 episodes. It was a variety show in 1949, so not technically in the 50s, but leading up to it.
Yeah, I couldn't find any clips on this one.
Yeah,
It's
that one was
disappointing. I really
hard.
wanted to see it. But...
Even with 3 names. I couldn't find it had 3 names.
Uptown Jubilee.
Uptown Jubilee. They're like, and then they're like, this isn't working. Let's call it Harlem Jubilee. Harlem Jubilee. Oh, Sugar Hill Times. They just changed it 3 times, 5 episodes.
Sugar Hill Gang. Are they in it? That'd be cool.
The Sugar Hill Gang.
I said a hip hop.
Hippity. Okay, so then there was the Hazel Scott show, and this was only this was in 1950, and it was canceled after only a few months because she was named in one of these at the time, these lists that they were making of people who had possible communist involvement, and so she was named in that, and the ratings dropped or the advertisers were pressured, and so they canceled it. I think we do have a clip of this one.
I wasn't sure if this clip was from the show or just some other thing, but this just gives you a glimpse of what she was like and her skills, because she's very talented. It's very classy, just like when I was watching Nat King Cole show. Like, it's nice to have that classy blacks on TV.
Here we go. So it was just a 15-minute show, and it was her playing piano. By the way, if you put this on television right now, I would watch this. Why isn't this on TV?
I wish the television networks would have like at least like an hour a week where they just play like old stuff because it
Yeah.
stands out in a good way.
In a
Like
good
I remember for a
way.
while NBC was playing like old I Love Lucy episodes in prime time. It was just a few years ago. And I was watching all of them. It was so cool to see like old stuff, and it's a way for younger people to find these older things since a lot of them aren't going to go digging. But if you present it on like one of the big platforms, I think a lot of them would really like it.
Would see it. Yeah, why isn't this being played for Black History Month? Like, this
She's
is
not getting
cool.
beat by a white man.
That's true. She's beating the white keys.
Can't have that.
This is so cool. If you're just listening, if you maybe have the show in the background, you're not watching. She's got two pianos here. She's playing them both, and she's like turning around and has like one hand on one keyboard and one on the other, and she's doing all these tricks. And she's beautifully dressed and just makes it look effortless. Here, let's play just a tiny bit more because I love this. I mean, come on. Bravo.
And what do we have now? Lizzo. That's what we have, Keri.
Oh gosh.
That's what we have. We've fallen so far. What happened?
We have Britney Spears, Anna, and like Lizzo. And what's the one that sings about her anatomy?
That's ton of them. I'm like trying to think which one. Oh, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj. Like, keep going.
This is beautiful. Yes, look at this. Davina, that's entertainment. Dan, the talent level is astounding.
I know.
Yes. Therese, she's so beautiful. Yes. They say we're romanticizing old stuff, but no, it was definitely better. Yes, this was beautiful. Oh yeah, she's playing the black keys too. Yeah, one of those pianos, they had the colors of the keys
It's
inverted,
yeah.
which was cool. And the piano, one piano was white, one was black. It was a cool inversion. Feels like I'm listening to a Fallout game. Yeah, well, the Fallout New Vegas is the one I used to play. That's where I learned actually my first interaction with some old 1950s country songs was on that game. Cardi Cluster B. You guys are funny. Okay. So that's cool. So that was the Hazel Scott show, a 15-minute program with her just playing piano. Should we bring up the Billy Daniels show?
Sure.
Did you find a clip of that one?
No, I didn't.
I don't think I did either. I think that's why I didn't put one in here.
I wonder like what happened to like these films, if they were kept for a while. Were they not kept well and they disintegrated, or they just get thrown away? Like no one will ever watch this again. No one cares. It just got thrown away. I don't know.
It's like the Epstein list. It just went missing. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't find much about Billy Daniels. I
don't think this is from his show, but this is who he was. This was the song he was most famous for. And like the Hazel Scott show, this was an entertainment show with music. So again, that's pretty much all the shows except for the two we already, Amos and Andy and Beulah.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black.
Is he black?
You weave.
He is black.
Oh, he's got that good hair.
Let's see. Here's what Wikipedia says about him. He was one of the first African American entertainers to cross over into the mainstream. Honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1977. Notable for his hit recording of that Old Black Magic. That's the song we were just looking at. He had a heritage of Portuguese, Native American, Choctaw, African American, and supposedly related to the frontiersman Daniel Boone. Supposedly. Okay. I like his. I'm afraid we're gonna need a copyright strike on something.
Yeah, gotta be careful with the music.
Probably already have. Okay. So we did Hazel Scott show, Billy Daniel show, Nat King Cole TV show.
Yeah. He
Now
was very classy.
Now everybody knows him.
Great show. Yeah. And his show was on for what? I think, was it only on for a year?
It was just a year. And we started this episode by reading an LA Times article in the 90s talking about how the show got canceled because they couldn't pick up enough advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
So this was in 1957, and it was another one of these variety shows.
And see, this would be something great just to have on TV because you just put it on the background because it's just him singing and it's just so relaxing, soothing, and classy. So I love about that 60s, big band music. Just makes you feel so classy.
It's so classy. And as someone pointed out in chat, I'd have to scroll up to find it, but maybe it was Tree. Somebody said, now today, if you put this on television, you would get criticism from people, a lot of woke people anyway, saying, "Oh, they're acting white." They're not act. This isn't white. This is classy.
It's internalized whiteness.
Oh yeah, that's what they would say, right? How racist is that? Okay, we're definitely probably getting copyright on this, but here, let's play just a little.
Pause it if you think it's okay.
In the evenings, may I come and sing to you?
Yes, you may come and sing to me.
Why, yes.
Why, yes.
All the songs that I would like to bring to you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep pausing it so we can cover it. Yeah, you can come. Please come and sing to me.
The Nat King Cole Show from the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas.
I love how cheap the credits were for shows like this.
And the Beachcombers with Natalie.
It's so fun though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They just like tape it on the board but it's kind of cool. It's really fun.
It reminds me of a high school project I did. Construction paper for titles.
That's all you need. I'm a Luddite. This is fine. I don't want to be having to make my own graphics. I'm just going to do this for Deprogrammed.
I wonder Nat King Cole had to do to himself. What? I have to do it myself. All right.
You come over and you and I get some construction paper and make some title cards for our show.
We should do that, everybody.
So
on today's show, Pop Culture, filmed from a live studio audience.
Oh, okay. I'm making so many notes from everything you're saying tonight. Okay.
It's a good brainstorming session.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Tony Bennett. I'm speaking to you right from the stage of the fabulous Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is my very great privilege to be able to appear on Nat King Cole's show tonight. We also have with us Don,
Shep,
Okay.
and Jerry. And we are 3/4 of the Beachcombers. You see, a few years ago, when we were stationed in Hawaii, we
ride down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you.
Why would you want to listen to this? Watch the show.
I love this song, but it's also, if you listen to the lyrics, it's one of those songs that where you're like, oh, you're creepy. It's like I'm gonna sit down and write myself a letter and pretend you wrote it to me. What?
It puts the lotion on its skin.
Oh, it gets the hose again. It's just so late. I'm gonna peek in your window.
Do you find me sexy?
I'm gonna write words so sweet. They're gonna knock me off my feet. A lot of kisses on the bottom. And I'll be glad I got 'em. I'm gonna smile and say, I hope you're feeling better. And close with love.
Again, this is a letter you're writing to yourself, sir. And pretending it's for me.
Dave Chappelle did a skit where he's playing a Nat King Cole and they were doing it as like a Lost episode. And he's basically like this, like a modern hip hop guy where he like brings out champagne and starts pouring it on the girls. Rub your breast, girl.
Oh man, I know you're working your butt off in your real job, but one day I hope that you can just come over here and make a comedy show with me full time.
That would be the dream.
I got a letter from the government. That would be a great hit. Okay, I gotta stop laughing. I don't know why this is post-millennial clutch fan. Loving this episode, needed the laughs. Oh, good.
Good.
It's not just us. Would you
Would you do me? 'Cause I do me.
Silence of the Lambs, the musical. Okay. Let's see just a little bit more of this one, and then we'll wrap it on up.
Take it away.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is a young man who has had a meteoric rise in show business. A modest fellow whose greatest pleasure it is to entertain everybody. Let's really say hello to Tony Bennett. Right.
So it was a fun variety show. It lasted
Yeah.
a year, and it got canceled. And that's it. Well, we pretty much covered the 1950s. Haven't we hit all of it? I think.
I think we hit all the shows. Yeah.
We hit all the shows. Now we didn't know how much time we were going to fill tonight. We didn't know Mr. Chris was going to have to leave. So we also pulled some other, but I wonder if we should save this for something else since we pulled movies, and I feel like we would get too far down that path, don't you?
Depending on how many movies you want to talk about. I only have a couple. I only watched a couple of them, so I only have to.
Which ones do you
I'll
think
talk
are?
about a couple.
You do want to talk about a couple?
Sure, or one. You don't take both, but we're gonna do it briefly. Native Son was one. So this is based on the novel by Richard Wright, and it's an interesting story, but the execution was terrible. But so it's about a black man who accidentally kills a white woman, and he tries to cover it up. And the trailer for this movie makes it look pretty cool. When you watch it, it comes off as very amateurish, and it's just not great. But it tackles the issue of race head on, which for that time it's amazing. Like now, you kind of roll your eyes because we've seen tons of stories like this. But for back then, to do something so upfront and to deal with that issue in such a major, big manner, a big way, was amazing. And it got censored because of that. Like they had to film part of it in Argentina, partly in Chicago. but there were a lot of studios that wouldn't play it. It also didn't help that Richard Wright was a communist.
Again. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, we play a little bit of this trailer just to...
I'd like to sing a little song for you. Love me 'cause I'm lonely.
I love the way it's filmed. It's very film.
A dreaming kind of child.
Mary, is there someone here with you?
All my life I heard of black men being killed because of white girls, and there I was.
Darling, give up. It might make it easier.
You can stop there. You don't play the whole thing. But yeah, again, it would be an interesting movie if it was executed a little better. He does become like he starts off very sympathetic, but then he becomes like a psychopath, like midway through the movie. So you're like, who am I supposed to feel sorry for?
Right.
But yeah, it was meant as a, obviously a commentary on race relations and the fear that many black men had of being accused either falsely or in this one they played him as accidentally, killing her. But it was a fear for a lot of people back then. And unfortunately, it's fear for some black people today, even though you don't really have to fear much in that regards. But this movie, like I said, didn't do very well critically or financially. A lot of theaters wouldn't play it. They did end up remaking it a couple of times. It got remade in '86. Oprah is actually in the '86 version. And then HBO remade it a few years ago. So it's... book that's cited by a lot of people. I've never read the book. I don't know if I ever will, but
you watched the whole movie?
Yes, I did. It's on YouTube. Free on YouTube.
Free on YouTube, guys. I do want to see this one. I like film noir.
I do too.
I like the style, and it like you said, it's confusing about who it is you're supposed to sympathize with. I think that's oftentimes the case in film noir. There's often sort of a convoluted, like, this is not actually a good guy, or so okay. This one.
And then the other movie I watched was Take a Giant Leap, which came out in '59. This was another one that dealt with race in a very upfront manner. It was also censored too, because the studio had to delay its release until 1960 because they couldn't find distribution for it. Eventually they did, but it was censored. And so this one's about a young man, black man, who's living in a suburb full of white people. And as he's getting older, he's noticing that, his friends and girls he's interested don't want to have anything to do with him because they're afraid of repercussions of socializing with a black kid. So he has a lot of teen angst, and it's basically just kind of exploring it. But if you go to that second link, I queued it up. Funny moment, probably the funniest moment in the movie. Not that it was a comedy, but I just love this.
You though, Mr. Chris, you always find a funny moment, even in a drama.
Yeah, you'll see. But yeah, let's just play a few seconds of him confronting his one of his white friends.
My grandmother knows what the score is. She's been knowing the score an awful long time now. She's going on 83 years old, so you can talk freely in front of her.
All right. It isn't Marguerite's fault. I told you before she likes you. It's her father. Well, Mr. Wendowski. Well, he doesn't like colored people. I'm sorry, Mrs. Martin, but that's the lousy truth, Spence. He just doesn't like them.
And I don't like Polish people either. Never have, and I never will. Sometimes I think Hitler was right.
We're expecting that
What?
Base grandma, wow.
It's not fair. It's totally racist. It's not fair. It's totally anti-Semitic. The whole black Grandma pulling it out. You would always buy the funny
I can't believe they put that in the movie. Wow.
I'm like,
But
I don't like Polish people.
But even though like this was meant to talk about civil rights, in that moment at least, it was honest because everybody's racist back then. So I was like, wow, it was kind of refreshing. Like some black people racist against Polish people.
Look, it's pretty accurate in some. I mean, it being that there are people who have racial prejudices, and in ethnic prejudice and everything in every race. You are going to meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh man.
For the record, I love Polish people. I dated a Polish girl. She's very cute.
Some of your best Polish are friends.
Lady friends, yes.
Oh man, Granny.
And I guess unless you want to talk about anything else, I do have a funny thing.
Let's do the funny thing.
Cool. So this is a internet classic. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is a short film, a fake documentary, created by one of the writers of Community and Malcolm in the Middle. It's about a black space program. It was not real, obviously, but it's as if a black space program existed at the same time NASA came about, going to the moon in the 60s. And so it's done in the style of a Ken Burns documentary. And it's one of my favorite videos ever. It's about 20 years old, but this is great. I queued it up. I think I put the
You
time.
did. You put the time
in there.
code 226.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just go to that.
I have
the first
never
one and then skip it.
seen this. It's
Oh,
called
you don't have to watch the whole thing, but these moments are great in that I hear.
It's called the Old Negro Space Program. Okay, you guys, we at the end of every episode, we are wrapping it up just a little bit early tonight because Mr. Chris has to work. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of Pop Culture on Deprogrammed. As always, if you like the video, please hit like below. You can support our show at Subscribestar or Patreon or Locals or here on YouTube. And you can support the show by hitting like or leaving a comment. You can also make suggestions on topics below. And at the end of the night, sometimes we end it with something funny. And so we're just going to end with a funny clip. It doesn't mean this is not from the 50s. This is just a funny clip related to the topic at hand. Okay.
Thematically, it fits.
Thematically.
It was a different time. 1957 or 58. America's love affair with racism was in full swing. NASA was no exception.
What? So stupid.
Okay, I think you skip ahead to what I put on the
what we see.
What did I put there?
So
you said 346.
Yeah, 346.
So we put together our own gig, got ourselves some uniforms, and I told Alita Monroe that I was working for NASA, the Negro American Space Society of Astronauts. Got laid that very night.
The uniforms were stitched by hand. The rockets cobbled together from NASA's discards. Word spread quickly. By the summer of 1960, NASA had over 240 black astronauts. White NASA was beginning to take notice.
White NASA.
Kennedy was aware of the Negro space program and very much against it, his stance on civil rights notwithstanding. One can only imagine, as terrified as the administration was of losing the space race to the Russians, they were 10 times more terrified of losing it to the Negroes.
As Washington fumed, Harlem celebrated. The ragtag group of blackstronauts were becoming minor celebrities, traveling from town to town, staging launches to raise money, endorsing local businesses, their exploits glorified in song.
Oh, there goes Loopy Louie.
Where's he going, Fred?
If I know Loopy Louie, he's shooting up again.
Is that right?
He's shooting up again.
Don't tell me.
He's shooting up again.
Oh, shit.
Okay. But I love this. Like I said, one of my favorite videos of all time. I recommend everybody go watch it.
Frozen Rose says, mockumentaries are such a great source of comedy. Or a source of great comedy. Yes, that's true. Oh, wow. This was a fun night.
It was.
Thank you, Mystery Chris, for spending time with us, even though you've got a busy schedule right now.
Yeah, I got work for the man.
You work for the man. Yeah. I'm done. I'm spent.
And I'm done. Shutting
down for the night. You guys, thanks for hanging out. Like I said, if you like the show, if you have suggestions for future episodes or topics you think we should dive into, let us know in the comments. And I hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. So what we're doing now, what we've been doing this year, is every other week we're doing pop culture. So next week then is not pop culture. Next week is that Christian panel, and we're just alternating. So Mr. Chris and I will see you here in a couple of weeks with an all new episode.
Yay.
Yay. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, I'm going to go then. And I don't need any of this. I don't need this stuff. And I don't need you. I don't need anything except this. This ashtray. And that's